Amazing Love Sanctuary. We're glad. I think we're going to be back on broadcast with us. And so we won't have to do a wrap up like I did last week at the end. So just going through this. But thank you all for being here. And we're just really blessed to have us be able to gather. So myself, Pastor Jenna, you haven't met her online yet, so now you have. So you'll get to hear her talk today. She's got a wonderful conversation. We've got amazing conversations about why we're here. Peace. Today we're going to light 4 candles, and this is the peace candle. So those of you that don't know, we are an interfaith chapel, so we want to recognize all journeys and paths that are here with us, and we celebrate together. We definitely find the common ground where we all care about peace, and we all desire peace in our lives and our practices. So I'm going to start by lighting. I'm going to light the Advent candle. So we have a lighter there. Okay, so we're going to light candles. In fact, so I'm going to light candle for Saint Alexius, patron saint of the man of God. So, we're going to light the candles today with love and hope and joy. And we're going to light candles of peace.
And I want to acknowledge the tradition of Yule for this time of year, and so light a candle in celebration of a ceremony that we still very, very much practice, and also in doing so acknowledge its more ancient roots, its ancient roots. So lighting this candle as a way to celebrate Yule. Also wanting to acknowledge the fact that we are about to celebrate the solstice, which is all about the return of the light. And that, I think, is something that is really going to be something to focus on as we talk about peace. And I also want to light this candle to acknowledge, just everything that we're bringing in as a circle, as a community together, bringing in the spiritual wisdom that we all have in our hearts. I also want to give an acknowledgement to the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute people who have lived on the land that we now call the Denver metro area. And I just want to invite anyone who's going to be watching this to take a moment and to think about the nations that were there on the land that you're on, and what are the ways in which we can acknowledge and bring that wisdom and that knowing into how we practice our faith and our spirituality today. So land acknowledgements, spirit acknowledgements, ancestor acknowledgements, and it's all here.
Good morning. You shocked me. And you are Kai. Welcome. Glad that you're here. You know these people. They're good people. I love them from my heart. So I want to share a reading about Advent that we're thinking about as we recognize Advent and Yule and the value it has in our life. But today we're talking about peace. And Jen's going to share a message this morning on peace. And so I just, something that I kind of came across, and, things that came to me, and it just was reinforced this morning. I was listening to Father Richard Rohr, who's one of my favorite Franciscan mystics. I love mystics. He's one of them. And so we are each image bearers of the divine in a beautiful, broken, chaotic world. We're all there. Sad divisions, deep polarizations, conflict, war, marks our time on earth. In a corner of the world which has let it claim our heart, violence demands its own news cycle. Palestinians and Israelis have their own reported violence that have gone on for decades. And some of us feel deep pain as we have friends in this world plagued with fear, struggle, trying to figure out where they belong. A lot of times at this time of the year when we're talking about peace, we wonder, is peace possible? Can I really find peace? Can we really find peace in this world? In our weariness, we just assume that we can't. But I think this is too important a question to leave unconsidered. The questions of peace and peacemaking in a fallen world come to us most powerfully at this season of Advent, in which we prepare for the coming of the Prince of Peace. It's ours to be about the business of peace, restoration in a broken place, in broken lives, in a broken world. And we do this while living in hopeful expectation that one day all things will be made right and that we will find peace. Just so everybody knows, we'll go on later on and tell everybody what's going to happen the rest of the week. But I'll just kind of let you know. Tuesday is, let you talk about Blue Christmas.
Yes.
Tell us what we need to bring.
Right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. Okay. So there's a lot happening on Tuesday, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the solstice on Tuesday. We've got all of that entails, and as well as honoring the light. We wanted to kind of make space for folks who just want to maybe have, just some conversation and some acknowledgement around grief and all of that and what that entails around this time of year. And so we're going to have a little ceremony / council on Tuesday. It's a Blue Christmas, Blue Yule. I just trying to be more incorporating there. So it's going to be council and some ceremony around holding grief, and it could be around carrying, remembering folks that are no longer with us, as well as other personal griefs, grieving the other things that we may need to, that is up and alive for us as well. So maybe it's grieving mental health or other things. So grief is a big word and it's very nuanced. So just wanting to make space to honor that.
And we will light blue candles. Blue candles. So whatever grief that we might be carrying, this is a place to bring that and to acknowledge that. Even we talk a little bit about even if you've had a death in your family, a death of a pet, those are times of real grief. I felt those when we lost our own pets. And even during this time of COVID, a lot of people are struggling with depression and fear. This is a great place where we want to come in and acknowledge that it's real in our lives. 6:30 on Tuesday night. And we will light the candles and have, if you want to bring a picture or an item or something that kind of connects you to that, that would be a good place. And Jenna will lead us through Blue Christmas. And so if you want to sing Noah's song, sing Blue Christmas. I've actually been listening to that all week. And then Christmas Eve at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve, we'll light the Christ candle and celebrate together and then have everybody can have a wonderful Christmas day. So I am going to turn the rest of this over to you, and it's Jenna's opportunity to share with us. And I'm going to go work with the camera. It should work.
So I don't think I have anything really profound to say about peace that hasn't already been said, or that probably isn't already carried within your wisdom in the room. I think what I want to do maybe is just to offer us the space together to connect with however peace is in our bodies right now. And that just means acknowledging without trying to change our present experience. think it just means taking a breath, going beneath a little bit of the chatter, and just letting ourselves be who we are, how we are. And for folks who are watching from afar, I'm going to also invite you to take that breath in as well with us. And let that be the connector that lessens the distance. And the breath can be the first access point to choosing peace. Friday, I have two children. And on Friday, much to the dismay of parents everywhere, there was an alert that went out to a lot of the schools around its National Bring a Gun to School Day, and a lot of schools around the nation were plagued with threats. And this is one of the realities of the world that we live in right now. And of course, as a mother, it is hard for me to find those moments of breathing in, of breath, when I'm confronted with the real palpable violence that we live in our world, as well as understanding, and not really actually understanding, the depth of the mental health and psychological issues that this is going to have on our children, the constant fear. So any talk that we have around peace has to be able to be applicable in our world today. That peace sometimes in the talking of it gets caught up in the concept, when it's as close to us as taking in that breath when we feel like we are going to collapse in fear, or when we feel like we are going to be so plagued with our anxiety. It's as close as our breath. Peace is about making choices. Peace is about also justice. Peace is about not averting our eyes from the reality of the world that we live in. The reality of the world that has an agenda, that wants to keep us fearful. But how do we get underneath that? How do we take back our autonomy, our co-creation of peace? And so it's just a simple message. It's just a simple message to just invite us all to breathe together in this time. For me, creating peace is also about recognizing how I do harm. I heard someone say a couple weeks ago that you don't really know how much you are capable of peace until you also understand how much you are capable of atrocity, of injustice. If you don't ever confront that aspect of yourself, maybe you just remain harmless. That isn't peaceful. And I think that speaks to an active warriorship when it comes to the cultivation of peace. Knowing that we, at any second, all it takes is one choice, and we're destabilized. And so thinking about that, thinking about sitting with the reality of the world that we live in, sitting with the reality of how I, at every moment, can choose peace, and also, in my reactionary states, can choose not so much peace. Another way of saying that. And also, understanding the ways in which I avert my eyes. And so, I just wanted to offer us nothing really special or ceremonial or ritualistic, just for us to sit with a practice that actually comes from the Buddhist tradition. And I learned this in school, and it is something that is done, and the practice is called Tonglen. I'm sure some of you know what Tonglen is. And what I love about this meditation practice is it starts with confronting the present reality of everything, of the world, and actually taking that into our body. And sitting with how our body feels in that before we decide to breathe the peace out. But it takes that conscious choice to first acknowledge the way that that lack of peace hits our human bodies, and the choice that we can make in those moments to breathe out peace. And it's nothing real simple. In fact, you can do Tonglen as you pray. I've done Tonglen in prayer to many deities. It's not something that is antithetical. It's something that dances really well. Because it's all about taking in the reality of the world that we live in. And so for me, I'm just going to invite us all here present in this room, and for those who are watching online, to just take a moment, take note of what you're thinking, take note of how you're feeling in your body. If there are judgments, let them be. No need to shift them or judge them, just let them pass. If you're feeling anxiety, let it be. Whatever is present, just take note. And in your own time, go ahead and begin to inhale, consciously acknowledging all that feels fricative, all that feels unsafe. And as you sit in this inhalation, before the exhale, feel how that feels in your body. And then, what is your choice for this out breath? For this, I'd love to ask us all to maybe just breathe out, exhale peace to the world. And I would invite us all to maybe do this 2 or 3 more times, customizing it to wherever it is for you. And taking special note of the space between the inhalation and the exhalation. That place where change, choice, transmutation happens within our bodies. Give yourself one last cycle. Sometimes when I am confronted with the immensity of pain, with the immensity of suffering, with the immensity of strife and conflict, I will do Tonglen practice. And sometimes I will, at the end of that practice, say something along the lines of, may all beings feel peace. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. But that's mine. And you can make that whatever you want it to be. So this Friday, as I was confronted with the hopelessness of being a parent in a world and not knowing what the future is going to be for my children, and seeing the mental health impact that the past 2 years have had on my children, I do this practice. And it's not about changing my circumstances, as much acknowledging it and bringing myself back to choice. So we can do this practice for ourselves. We can do this practice for each other. We can do this practice for our nation. We can do this practice for the land. We can do this practice for the entire planet. And it's really just about bringing the world in, choosing how we want to respond, and intentionally breathing that out. And you can have Jesus, you can have Hecate, whomever it is that you want to invoke in that presence, you can. Listening and participating.
Right now, I was at another reading that I thought we live between two advents, kind of like the two candles, two sets of candles. We between this set of candles and this set of candles, and it has an impact on our lives. And it's a time to wait in that light. We're in the dark time of the year, so it gets dark early, and we wait in that. Not much longer. Yeah. We wait for healing, we wait for companionship, we wait for wholeness in our lives. Sometimes we wait for relief from financial struggles, we wait for justice. Advent, Yule is about waiting. And I find some beauty in that. And it's not about emptiness. It's not about empty waiting. It's about purposeful waiting. And I think that's just an amazing thing. And so I am going to, I forgot to so we are going to share communion. Those of you that this is a communion for those of you that are Christian. It has one meaning for those of us that are gathered here that are not necessarily Christian. Our table is open to everybody. And so it's our way of continuing to share life together, share meaning together. And so that's the beautiful thing about this. We serve an open table. And so it's we're going to share this together, and I knew you were going to get on. We were going to get you on there. And so I am going to start off here, just open these little fancy cups. Please do.
So for those of us who may not necessarily, and I grew up Catholic, and so for me, the beautiful ritual of the Eucharist is something that I've always carried over into my ceremonial life. However, for me now, communion for me is about honoring the bounty of the earth, honoring the bounty of all of those beings who tend to our crops. It's about the acknowledgement of the system and all of the hands that it takes for us to take it bounty. And so I just want to offer that perspective to those who may want something as well as beyond. Thank you.
For me, this is the bread. It reminds us that we are all connected. We share this together, just like you said. To the person who grew the grain, harvested the grain, prepared it, baked it, and we share it together. We gather at the table, just like we would at a home with the family. We get to share this together. So this reminds me of our humanity, common humanity. So let's eat together. Thank you. spiritual lottery. You want to share something about that?
So, one of the ceremonies, pre-Christian ceremonies of this time of year is Saturnalia. Saturnalia is an old Roman festival. And it was something about the dark time brings out the human necessity to be joyous and a little bit raucous and just be in our humanness. And of course, wine became a beautiful symbol of all of that for the Romans. And so in the spirit of that, and in the spirit of, just the bounty, the grapes, right? The bounty of the earth, once again, we drink in that bounty. And so I'm going to honor that, honor the wine.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I want to make sure that we invite you to be here on Blue Christmas. Jim is going to lead us Blue Christmas and prepare us for solstice, winter solstice. And I'm looking forward to that. I think that's a beautiful tradition. And this has really been wonderful to me because it's helped me explore this and see the beauty of this. And so many people in fear of what's different. And I'm excited about this. I just embrace it with everything that we're learning from this and we're learning from Jenna. And I'm excited about this. So be here. Blue Christmas, bring something that's meaningful to you. I'm already thinking some things that I'm going to bring. We'll put a table, an altar or something that you can bring for Blue Christmas and share. And it's your show, so you can do it.
That's our show.
It's our show. So, but anyway, blessings to everyone that's watching us, that watches us throughout the week. Don't forget to share the video. That's important. And remember us in your thoughts, in your prayers, and your vibrations. Remember us here at Amazing Love Sanctuary. We're just a little chapel, and I'm just so thankful that we could gather together again and just experience this season together, and then moving on forward beyond this. So I'm excited. Do you have any final thoughts?
I do. I have a final question. My final thought is that for those who may be interested in a more traditional solstice celebration, Red Rocks, the amphitheater, is actually holding a drumming up the sun on solstice morning, where a bunch of people are going to get together to sit on the rocks and drum as the sun rises. And that is something that will also be done at Stonehenge at that time. So this is something that is kind of following the sunrise.
It's giving me goosebumps.
The Northern Hemisphere, it's definitely something. And my question is, Rev Sam, are you going to be drumming up the sun this year?
I've been invited.
You have.
and I committed by saying yes.
That's awesome.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up here. Let's see if we can do this right.